You
say we're ready?
We are ready.
They are ready. Okay.
Just want to apologize to the community members. We did get cut off there briefly. We lost our internet connection, so some technical difficulties at our end. We apologize. We have gone back a few slides just to ensure that we capture everything, and I remind community members to utilize the chat feature. Should you have any questions, you can ask the questions in the chat feature on the Facebook platform. Those questions will be filtered up and through to us as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Phil. Phil.
Okay. Not knowing where we lost our people, I went back 2 slides. So the further discussions, the key points in the MOU that we identified, like I say, that list is just, these are just examples. Moving forward, we have a Six Nations community plan. So a lot of the objectives are to address the issues that were raised by all the community engagement that went on. First issue was that it's very important to development of perpetual care and maintenance system for Six Nations. In other words, that we are going to have agreements that are legally binding, that if our health care is not met, if our education is not met to our standards with sufficient funding to meet our community's needs, then these issues go back to court. Because the issue that happens, we don't want to leave it to some bureaucrat's discretion. You know, I went through this today. I had to rush off to the dentist. And it basically says, Phil, you need a crown. Well, time to find out, the crown's not covered, which I kind of knew anyways. The guy says, no, you're not going to get a crown. So I guess for the cost of the crown, it's cheaper for me to buy a food processor, I guess. So that's what I'll be doing. So we shouldn't have to be begging. We have enough, Canada owes us enough in liabilities that if we're going to receive justice, our children should be able to have a perpetual care and maintenance system to meet their needs. So all of these things that are going to be identified and discussed are disposition and management of Six Nations assets. And that just does not just mean our financial, it also means our mines, our minerals, our timbers, anything that you've done, that are lands that are on our lands that should be under our governance. You know, take the good doctrine of discovery. That doesn't mean anything. You know, that's basically hogwash. What is our treaty relationship should you have been doing working with us? Those are the type principles that we want to talk about. New governance arrangement. Now, these are the process and mechanisms to address Six Nations government aspirations. And this is where it's very important that throughout my life dealing with this, the issues that come up, and we keep hearing it time, and we're hearing it more and more from the community. Six Nations elected council and Confederacy Council, you guys get together and work together for the betterment of the community as a whole. That's got to be worked on, people. You know, because it would be, well, we're going to leave it to the next generation. You know, this is something we've inherited since, well, as they say, 1924, but this division was happening in the 1890s on forward. So those are the type of things that are on this MOU. It's not going to take away from our Aboriginal and treaty rights. You know, that's discussions won't deal with that at all. But the biggest thing is that it's not going to, the biggest thing is our court case is going to continue. And that's going to be the hammer to move everything forward that we want. This list has just been drawn up the best we can to get things started. It can be expanded to it, it can be cut back from, but there's something we got to work on. So the issues that we're discussing, that we've already started discussions on, for our health authority, Six Nations Health Authority, our health care down here. Actually, we had Lori Davis-Hill. She came to one of our meetings there in Toronto, and you know, the wealth of knowledge and what she laid down there, she blew their table away, the Canada and Ontario. The same with Arla Sky. on our social services, you know. The same with Janice Burning. We had her down for lands and membership. I mean, these are very knowledgeable people, and we're very fortunate to have them as leaders in their directives within our community, because they know what we want and they know what we need. So they're a valuable source to have at these tables when we get to discussing them. Resource revenue sharing throughout the Haldeman tract. You know, unfortunately, Ontario has not been there. We need Ontario there because under the BNA Act, the lands and resources have been transferred to Ontario. And that's the problem. We need them there because we were talking revenue sharing of the resources. Taxation immunity related to Six Nations people, that's still there. It's going to have to be maintained. Our public works, our housing authority, our own justice system. And I don't mean just copying the justice system up in Brantford and bringing it down here. There's got to be a better way where the victims are properly taken care of. Additions to Six Nations land base. We do critically need more land. But it's insulting that we go out and get our land and then the way it's set up is that we turn it back over to an Indian reserve. We've got to move beyond that, you know, and we intend to move beyond that. Whereas our lands are going to be held by our treaty relationship, where it's going to be held the same as we held lands through real Haudenosaunee Indigenous titles. We were actually going to go and check out the Navajo. They have a very unique trust holding of their properties, but we just never had time, and with the pandemic, it threw everything out the window. Our own police services, culture and language and values. You know, internally we're working on many of these things: employment and training, environment and climate change mitigation initiatives. You know, we're dealing with the United Nations on those things: fitness, sports and recreation, international relations, governance, administration, community engagement. So a lot of these things are going to be dealt with, and we're going to have, no doubt, different views in the community, who's in charge of this, who's in charge of that. And we're probably going to, I hope we don't implode and then become our own worst enemy. But I wish history would prove me wrong, but in the 30 some years I've been working at it, we've been trying to work. The elective councils that I've worked with have tried to work with the Confederacy, and we've just made no real headway. It's a very unfortunate and sad, but we've got to grow up. So a lot of the information that I've shown you here, it'll be in the latest publication. It should actually be 2021 now. But our land base has not changed. The information that you have seen here that I presented, it's pretty well covered in that booklet. We've had earlier booklets that we put out. All the mappings in there, brief descriptions of what I presented are in there. It's just with the 2 hours and get some feedback. It's very difficult to go through this because it could take 3 days easy. And who knows how long it's going to take in the courthouse, but we'll get there. But our story will be told. So with that, Nathan, I leave it to you to chair and bring forward whatever your agenda is now.
Thanks for that, Phil. And before we move forward, I'm just going to pause and see if councillors have any questions at this time. And before I do that, just a reminder to those that are on the Facebook platform that you can utilize the chat feature to ask your questions, and we'll filter them up into the Zoom as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to see if there's any councillors that have any questions at this time. We have about 25 minutes left in this session. So I encourage folks to ask their questions, and I see comments are coming in from Facebook Live, so I do appreciate that. This is a comment. We need to balance between corporation and traditional ways going forward. So that is a comment from the Facebook Live chat. And again, just encourage folks to come forward with those. So is there any questions from any of the councillors that we have? Audrey.
I would just like to thank Phil and Lonnie for the presentation tonight. I think it's amazing all your team has done over the last several decades, and that it will pay off one day. And my wish, I guess, for our Six Nations community is for us to all work together and to get these land claims settled and get as much land back as we can, but also to make sure that we continue on getting the best, all of our needs for our Six Nations people met in the best way possible. So I thank you very much. And I would, that's all I'll say for now, but I would rather hear from the community at large and to see what questions they have. Yeah.
Thank you for
Nathan,
the-
it's Hazel. I have a question.
Okay, thanks, Hazel. I'm going to go to the chat. We do have a question. Where can we get the booklets you just showed at the end of the presentation? Where are those booklets available? Maybe that's a question for either Phil or Lonnie.
Okay, it's at Lands and Resources right now. We just finished the edit. We'll be doing a print. Okay, Marcy and Lonnie, help me then.
Yeah, the print is going to be done shortly, so it's just a matter of a couple of weeks, and we'll have we've got it all proofed now, and we just need to get it to the printers and get it produced. But it shouldn't be too long a time. We're expecting as soon as we get it, it'll be available.
Okay, so I'm hearing the response to the question on where you can get the booklets. Those will be available at Lands and Resources, and we're looking at between 2 and 3 weeks. They're just getting the printing done. Maybe what I can do is just leave a suggestion as well that we do a mail out of those booklets so that we hit all the households as well going forward.
Yay.
Is there any
Nathan,
other?
it's Hazel.
Yep, go ahead, Hazel.
Yeah, Phil, I just wanted to ask, with the interruption to the research around the 2000 time, and the length of time that it took to get caught back up without, I'm not sure if this is proper. Is it the GIC system that you mentioned? Is that correct?
GIS.
Oh,
called the
GIS system.
Yeah, Global Information System.
Yeah. So did they just get all caught back up, or how long did it take for you to get caught back up once that system was? I'm not sure the proper word to use, whether it was taken out or I don't know what to say there.
The GIS system was destroyed. Maybe Lonnie wants to answer more.
Well, that's the long and short of it. We never ever were able to find out exactly where it went, but just that we know that it was destroyed. And we've since been working on getting it back up again, and that's through the work of Phil and Marcy Sandy to get that done. So it's coming on board slowly, but we had some help from the University of it was at Waterloo. In helping us get it back up and running again, and hopefully we'll be able to use. There's a lot of material that has been uploaded now on the system that's being developed. It still needs a lot more information put on it, but we're working on it and hoping to have that done. And I can't give a time period on that. I'd say 1 to 2 years to be optimistic on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to say to Lonnie and Phil and all their staff that you have worked so diligently, and I'm really proud of where we are now, and it feels like the time is coming when our land claims will be addressed and we will get some resolve to these long awaited outstanding land claims. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, I am not seeing any further questions coming from the Facebook live chat at this point. So what I'm going to do is just look to have a discussion on, next opportunities and further opportunities for engagement. I know council has talked about having more transparent sessions like this, where we can present items like the global solutions and be able to get feedback from community. But also interested in hearing from community how they would like to receive the information. We do have the booklet. We committed to getting that out to the households through dropping them off in the mailbox. And I do note that if you go to YouTube, that you can see a number of videos where Phil has given this presentation in a number of forums. And what we'll do is we'll endeavor to get those posted on the website as well. But I just wanted to open that up to other councillors to see if they had feedback as it relates to further opportunities to bring this information forward to the community to get their feedback. Because I think the time is of an essence. We have a lot going on and there's a lot that we could leverage going forward as it relates to how best to move forward. So we're moving into the discussion on next steps, and part of that discussion is how we can get this information out to the community and receive their feedback. I see Audrey has her hand up, so we'll go over to Audrey.
I might suggest that we do some sort of survey so that people, once they read that global solutions and have questions, they have to be able to have somebody to forward the questions to and to have them answered. So social media is really good for that. But also if people don't have these social media, we have to figure out a way of how to address their questions as well, whether it's a number to call, whether there's somebody can take those calls and get them over to Phil and Lonnie and have them typed up and returned. But there has to be a way for different types of social media, newer technology and older technology to be used for the people who want.
Thanks for that, Audrey. And I'm going over to the chat. The Facebook Live chat does have another question that has come forward. The question is, will Band Council be investing into helping this work to move forward? I believe that question is directed at us as council. And from our perspective, one of the areas we're looking to invest is getting that information out and getting that information out in a timely manner to the community. What we can do is look at, putting this in an area of, and we talked about it as a council, is developing a strategic plan, a political strategic plan to coincide with the work that's going on as it relates to land rights. And that also includes not only financial investment, but further investment into, the department that's doing a lot of this work. So yes, Band Council will be investing to help this work move along. And I just wanted to see if any other councillors had any other comments as it relates to that particular question. I see Audrey had her hand up.
And mine was just much along the lines I was talking. We are talking about and developing a communication strategy for all of this, how to get the information, how to get ideas, and how to engage our community so that everybody has the opportunity to have their voice heard. So that's being worked on. Thank you. Thank
you for that. And Darren, I see you have your hand up, so I'll take it over. Darren, go ahead.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Phil and the team. I'm very supportive of this work. I mean, it's a culmination of so much work, and it's very thought-provoking in terms of the strategies around the MOU that provides as well. But I just wanted to chime in on the investment piece. I mean, clearly, this is our future, and as much as it was our past, and we've been, I guess, abused, for lack of a better word, throughout and not treated fairly. We have opportunity to create this leverage by establishing the liability squarely with Canada and the province. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And certainly I see some tactical things that we can do as a government, and working together more in terms of creating that leverage for us. There's no reason why we can't provide more investment where it's needed, because we're not just talking about where we live today, but we're talking about more areas of land that maybe we look at strategies around co-management and certainly the revenue streams. So the modeling, certainly that's certainly what I'm taking from this, and there's an opportunity for us to be the richest people in this country, and we should be. I mean, you said it, Phil. We built Canada, and so basically it's reciprocity. So I just want to pull the eyes out for community to part that this is this important time in our history, and we've got the people who are committed to doing this. It's going to take money, but it's also going to take commitment and prioritizing the effort. So I just wanted to thank you again. Great presentation.
Thanks for that, Darren, and really appreciate the comments coming from there on the investment and the importance of the strategy going forward, and as well, Audrey, to your point on the communications. There are a few more questions in the chat. This one speaks to the heart of, I think, where we all want to go. And I'll read this question. Appreciate all the work that has been done. How can elected council deal with our land issues when title to the land falls under the Haudenosaunee Confederacy? And maybe what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Phil or Lonnie first, because I think this speaks to the heart of the governance piece that you referenced on one of your slides. And then I have a few comments after that.
Go for it, Lonnie.
Well, the fact is that our research indicates that the Haldeman tract was never held by any particular tribe or the Haudenosaunee generally. It was this is my opinion, it was a held by the body, the group, which includes the Six Nations people, and there was never ever surrender by individual chiefs or anything transferring title, dealing with that matter. It always had to be by a collective agreement decision. So you just look at the words of the Haldeman Proclamation itself. It wasn't a normal deed transfer in a normal sense. It was to a body of people, and so the question is, then who owns it? Well, it's everybody that owns it. Everybody has an interest in it, and when we talk about if land is to come back, it's going to come back for the benefit of everybody, not any particular group, not the elected council, not the Confederacy chiefs. It's everybody's land, and that's the way in my opinion, it's always been treated that way. So that's how I see that playing out.
Thanks for that. Just in terms of I really appreciate that question, because it does speak to the heart of where we have to go, and that is working together on a lot of fronts in terms of moving not only these issues forward as it relates to land and land issues, but also, some of those other issues that Phil also highlighted as it relates to the services and the monies lost. And I think that speaks to where, the community has been asking, and we need to work on that governance piece going forward between us and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and there is that willingness. We are in talks. We have those discussions, and I think we have to continue to persevere through that as both elected council and Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Just going to see if any other councillors had any responses as it relates to that particular question before we move on. Hearing and seeing none, I do want to acknowledge there are 3 additional comments in the chat. The first one is a comment. Awesome job, guys and gals, on the work done thus far. So congratulations, everyone. Comment also, land back to be Six Nations Reserve 40A, 40B, 40C, 40D, 40E, and so on, whenever it's located. So I think that comment speaks to the heart of the initiatives around land back as well, going forward. And then another comment, this work should be intertwined with the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So we're drawing in definitely in full agreement to that. It does help inform those calls to action going forward. And, you know, the solutions derived from that should kind of be one of our guiding posts as we move forward on these pieces. So I do note the time. We are at 7:52. I don't see any further comments from the Facebook chat. Just want to have one more check-in if there's any final comments from Lonnie, Phil, or their team, or any counselors before we look to start closing this up and next steps.
Yeah, I do. It's Melba. I was muted, so I tried to talk a couple of times. Yeah, I certainly appreciate. It's okay to go, Nate?
Yes, for sure.
Nate? Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that, because it's been known for forever that, you know, this is Haudenosaunee land. And we're all Haudenosaunee, even though, you know, we haven't had the opportunity to actually live like that. You know, we've had problems with colonialism, of course. We all know about that. But initially, at the tables, it is being discussed. We're at the table. We're hopefully going to have one voice, one mind against the government, and how they should really resolve this in a way that's respectful to us and in regards to our ownership. So hopefully that's going to happen, but we will decide that as a community, as people. Once we get our land back, we will decide that. Let's get our land back first, and then decide how that land is going to be used, because it's for all of us. We know we need treatment center, for example. That is really important, and many other important things has been mentioned, like education and our health. But it has been mentioned, we got to think of the next 7 generations. It's been set at the table by the young chiefs. We have young counselors, we have young chiefs, which we should be so grateful for in moving forward. They have open minds, they got new ideas. So let us not be hesitant and not have hope that we're going to do this within the next few years. So I thank all the people that are listening in, and certainly Lonnie and Phil and all the girls. It was known that Phil had a harem. How many did you have working for you, Phil? All these girls.
I don't speak of my harem.
No, you must have had 11, 12.
Actually, there was a real team we had, and they all had their own expertise in the field, and when we brought them all together, they all brought a piece of that puzzle, and it was just spontaneous to see them work. You know, they don't even know how good they are. Unfortunately, when Roberta got in, some of the key ones got fired, so we've had to pick up from them, and I really admire those who stuck it out through that hellish time, and we brought forward, and they're there today. So they're the heroes in all this. So that's good. We have good workers here, no doubt about it.
Great. So let's use our good mind and move ahead, and have hope that we're going to resolve this, and we're going to decide when that land comes back, or before, what we're going to do with that land and who it belongs to. Like it was said, it belongs to everybody, everybody's decision. And it is talked about how the community communication was mentioned. We have to improve. The Confederacy has to improve. Elected council has to improve. The community too. So we're all in this together. And hopefully we can fight this COVID, and all of us will move forward in a really good way. Thank you very much.
If I could make one comment.
Go ahead, Phil.
Nathan. I have great respect for you and the councilors and what you've said and brought forward. But I think one of the issues there is going to be, we've got to get our relationship, our governance established now before we get into it, because we got to respect each other as we move forward in responsibilities. I think that has to happen now. Because I'm afraid, well, I'll tell you, I'm afraid when the decision comes down, if it's in the court, if we can't negotiate a proper resolution to our people, and the decision comes down, and when we win, I don't want to see us fighting over what's in the pot. We've got to have a game plan in place before then, long before then. So that's just what I've learned from what's happened across Canada with other settlements. Creates nothing but turmoil if you don't have it planned out first. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. And I really appreciate those comments because I think it speaks directly to the question that just came in from the Facebook Live feed. The question does speak to the heart again, to the governance. And I'm hearing community members again imploring, just as you have, that we figure out our governance. The question was, why did elected council give the lead back to HCCC in 2006 negotiations if, as you stated, it was given to the body of the people? So I don't feel comfortable. I wasn't around in this space during that time, and I don't want to speak out of turn. But again, I'm noting the underlying issue there, which is governance and the need for us to come together as one. I don't know if any other councillors that maybe were around at that time or folks that were around want to address that question, but Phil, I think you already have with your point on the need for us to come together as one and figure out the governance pieces. So I'll just...
It's Melba. Yeah, it's Melba. Yeah, it's just recently been discussed again between the Confederacy and the elected council. Trust is a big issue, and it's constantly there. So we're trying to resolve some of that and build the relationship where we can trust one another. And I do believe it can happen over time. It can happen.
Appreciate that, Melba, and I think you nailed it there with that response in terms of trust going forward. And just before we end off, I'm noting the time. We are closing in on 8 o'clock. The last comment that we received through the chat was the need for us to get back to land-based programming. And again, wholeheartedly agree. I know our house services has been really working hard in getting their initiatives more land-based required. And I know we're looking at that across the board and really hold up Darren Jameson and his team for the work they're doing around restructuring so that, more of those land-based programs can come to Six Nations and we can utilize that as that teaching tool. So with that, I'm just gonna one final look to see if any other councillors. I see Audrey for final comments before we close off.
Yeah, we had education in the other night for our meeting, and they informed us all the land-based education that they're doing in the schools and they project to do. They're building outdoor teaching areas. They're going to be able to share it with after-school programs. They have been working on land-based for a while now, and put more effort into it, especially due to COVID-19. So I thank all the educators very much and everybody who's part of that. And they're partnering with social service. And Arla Sky, I thank you and your team for that as well. So we're on the right path to bring more of that to the reserve in the education system.
Appreciate that.
And
go ahead.
And it's Melba again. Yeah, health also has been doing that for almost the last year and a half, and they've now moved over to Third Line, where the late George Miracle's house. There's 10 acres there, and so we know that that healing is very important for us in many ways, and we need to appreciate nature and the environment all those things that sustain us. So health is on board also. They have a huge staff there, 10 acres of land. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Melba. And as I look to close this off, I remind those that are still on our live feed that we are looking to get the booklet out that was referenced by Phil and Lonnie through the Lands and Resources Department. We are looking to get that out as well as a survey, as highlighted by a number of councillors in terms of getting some further thoughts as we move forward. And I remind folks that you can go to YouTube. We're going to try and get the links in one spot so that we can see further presentations where Phil has presented this in the past. And as we look forward, I know Council has been talking and we're looking for more opportunities to engage the community in this manner. You know, this was one important topic where we could present the global solutions, lands, rights, and Six Nations to the community, get their feedback. And I really thank the community for asking your questions and leaving your comments as you did throughout this. And as other councillors did, I also hold up Lonnie Bomberry and your team, as well as Phil, for your tireless work over the years on this important initiative going forward. So with that, I'm going to look to close this session out and ask community members again, keep Chief Mark Hill in your thoughts and prayers, as well as his family for their loss. Ask community to stay safe and still adhere to the COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions on where we're at, and remind we are still in a gray section. So with that, I look to close out. Thank everyone for joining. Miawagoa. Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah.